Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and this morning we're visiting with Dr. Jimmy Henning. He's with the University of Kentucky Extension Forage Specialist there. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning.
Well, today I'm excited because you're going to talk a little bit about baleage. And for some of our viewers who might not be familiar, can you explain what that is?
You bet. Now, baleage is really making silage in a round bale. So we roll up forage wet on purpose this time, not trying to beat the rain, and wrap it tight with plastic. Making baleage lets us, put up the forage with only about a day or two, sometimes in curing weather, so that then we can harvest some really good stored forage without getting rain damage.
But it's not one of those things. We do have to be intentional about the baleage. It can't be like, oh well, it's going to rain. I'm just gonna put this in a wrap. There are certain things and there's science behind it that we must follow to make sure it's safe for our animals.
The old saying garbage in, garbage out still applies. But one of the first things that we need to realize is that with the baleage system, since we don't have to have 3 and 4 days of curing, we can come closer to hitting those target harvest maturities that we talk about, that are ideal for forage crops, such as when the grasses are just starting to head or are just starting to bloom a little bit. And that really helps us in a lot of ways. It's higher quality, but they have more water soluble fermentable carbohydrates that we need to ferment to make the baleage stable in storage.
Well, and one of the big things with baleage is that moisture level. And in Kentucky, it could be 80 degrees one day and 60 and wet the next day. And so you really have to watch the temperature and monitor that moisture.
And really measuring moisture in the moment is the hardest thing I think about this whole process. But we know that in the springtime, it's going to take about a full day of wilting to get down into the right moisture range, which is between 40 and 60%. And that's a pretty broad range. Sometimes the equipment tells us first that it's too wet. It doesn't really deal with it very well. But getting that moisture content in that 40 to 60% range is really crucial.
Now, you mentioned equipment. Is there specialized equipment or how we handle this hay that we need to pay attention to?
That's not exactly. That's one of the beauties of this system. You don't have to have an upright silo or a chopper or things like that. But your baler does have to be heavy duty or retrofitted with kits that help you deal with the wet material, both the
Mhm.
weight of it and also the way that it tends to wrap around different parts within inside of the baler. So the baler needs to be a little different, and of course you need to have that wrapping instrument to cover up the hay with plastic.
Is there a magic number of wraps with how many times it needs to be wrapped for it to ferment well?
On the absolute white knuckle minimum, 4 layers would do it, but we go with 6. We can tell a difference in feeding studies with 6 compared to 4 layers. And it also gives us insurance that the stems that might be in the hay don't poke through the plastic, nor the stems that are on the ground where you're going to put the haylage or baleage, they don't poke through that plastic. So 6 layers is what we consider to be the minimum, practical minimum. That first 4 weeks, 6 weeks is when the major fermentation is going on. So if you see a hole, go ahead and patch it with the tape that's designed to patch this type of plastic, and that will do the job. It'll make it hold together. It'll let the bale ferment. Later, when the temperatures are cold and is already fully fermented, a hole is not as detrimental, but a hole early on, especially a big hole, can be a big problem. So, don't forget to watch this thing for holes.
Absolutely. And we probably need to still get it tested to make sure we know what we're feeding our animals.
With baleage, I would recommend getting a fermentation analysis, and that's going to tell you how well it fermented. And we have learned a lot over the last 3 years in testing baleage across Kentucky. And we've got publications now that can help explain why a baleage, round bale silage, doesn't look like the analysis that you would get from a dairyman's haylage chop silage, for example, with the same crop.
Absolutely. But if done right, what a great option for Kentucky forage producers. And Dr. Henning, certainly appreciate you visiting with us today and giving us that information. If you have questions, you can always contact your local extension office and we'd be happy to help. Thanks for watching and have a great day.